How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed, Daf 30 of Ksubis. Friends, new. What does Daf 30 talk about? Well, as always, we continue where we left off yesterday. That joke never gets old, huh? It's a good one. Anyways, we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. We saw at the end of the daf yesterday the machlokas between Shimon HaTimni and Reb Shimon ben Manasseh about is there a requirement for the fine by onus u'mefate? Is there a requirement that this woman be somebody that, according to Shimon HaTimni, is somebody that he has to be able to marry, right? To the exclusion of, for example, let's say, I don't know, your sister, right? You can't, right? Even if you try to marry your sister, it's not an actual marriage, right? Or is it somebody that, well, and as opposed to somebody like a mamzeres, that technically if a fellow is mekadesh a mamzeres, it's kiddushin. Now, they wouldn't be able to remain together, which is what Rav Shimon ben Manasseh says, right? That not just would there have to be kiddushin, right? Would kiddushin have to be able to work with this, between this man and this woman, but they would actually have to be able to stay together after that. So, for example, if a fellow marries, right, a fellow who's not a mamzer marries a mamzeres, so while, forget Rabbi Akiva aside, while it might be considered a marriage, they wouldn't be able to remain together, right? So, Shimon HaTimni says that in order for the fine to apply, in this case, it would have to be somebody that marriage would sort of apply to. According to Reb Shimon ben Manasseh, it's not enough that marriage applies. Right, well, it's not just that marriage applies, but even if they would be able to be married, but they wouldn't be able to stay together, right? Meaning staying together is like another requirement. But so if they would be able to get married but not stay together, for example, a mamzeres to a Yisrael, then the fine would not apply. So now says the Gemara and Daf Lamed of Masechet Ksubis, about 5 or 6 lines into the page. Omer of Chizde says of Chizde Hakol Modim, that both Shimon HaTimni and Reb Shimon ben Manasseh agree b'Baal Anida, that if a fellow sleeps with a nida, shemishalim knas, that he is going to have to pay the fine. The mandomer yesh ba'avoya, or nami yesh ba'avoya. According to Shimon HaTimni, who says that it has to be a relationship that has havoya, that there could be marriage between them. Well, of course, if a fellow marries a nida, they're married, right? If on the wedding day the bride is a nida, they're still married. The madam ru'i l'kaima, and I'm ru'i l'kaima, right? And according to Reb Shimon ben Manasseh, who says that it has to be somebody who you could remain with, right? That even if you're able to marry this person, you would also have to be able to remain with this person. You could remain with a nida, right? You don't have to break up a man and a woman don't have to break up every time the woman is a nida. So a nida checks off both of those boxes. It's somebody who, right, this man and this woman can get married, right? A man can marry a nida, and that would be kiddushin, and also they could remain married even if she's a nida. So therefore the knas, the fine by onus u'mefate, would apply to a nida as well. Ulafuke mi Reb Nechunya ben Akone, to the exclusion of the opinion, as opposed to the opinion of Reb Nechunya ben Akone d'Tanya, as we learn in the Bais. Reb Nechunya ben Akone hoya oses Yom HaKippurim kishabas l'tashlumin. The Reb Nechunya ben Akone would equate Yom Kippur with Shabbos when it comes to tashlumin, when it comes to having to pay for stuff. So, if on Shabbos you do a melacha that causes damage to somebody's property, so you chayiv for 2 things, right? You chayiv misa, right? You chayiv skila for being mechal Shabbos, and you're also chayiv for whatever damage you did. Now, when it comes to Shabbos, because you're chayiv misa, we say kam le b'derab mineh. We say that, look, if there are 2 options, right? The death penalty and paying back for the damages that you did, well, since you get the death penalty, the more severe of them, so, you kind of, you're off the hook for having to pay back, the financial damage, but, you will have to pay with your life. Now, Reb Nechunya ben Akone would equate Yom Kippur with Shabbos in that regard, that just like Shabbos we say Kam Lebedu Abminen, you'd be potter for the financial damages. Also on Yom Kippur, where you're not chayiv skila for violating Yom Kippur, you're chayiv karis for violating Yom Kippur. So Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana would say that also by karis, if you violate Yom Kippur, which is a chiyuv karis, you'd also, and at the same time, you'd be liable for financial damages, based on what you did. I don't know, you burnt somebody's, property, so you'd be chayiv karis for doing melacha on Yom Kippur, and you would be potter for the financial damages since you're chayiv karis. And so says the Gemara. So let's back up 2 lines, right? So says the Brayso of Nechunya ben Akana. Says Yom Kippurim kishabbos u'tashlum. That Nechunya ben Akane would equate Yom Kippur with Shabbos with regard to whether or not, or in this case, not having to pay for financial damages. That just like on Shabbos, if a fellow violates Shabbos and therefore he's chayiv skila, so he's potter from tashlumin, he's potter from having to pay for whatever financial damages he caused along the way in doing the malacha. So if Yom Kippur is chayiv b'nafsho u'fatum min hatashlumin, so oichet on Yom Kippur, if a fellow does epis that he would be chayiv kares for violating Yom Kippur, he'd be potter for any financial damages that were incurred there, while he was doing that malacha. And therefore, when it comes to Anida is somebody, right, a fellow's chayiv kares for sleeping with Anida, so therefore he would be potter from the fine according to Rabbi Nechunya ben Akane. My time to Rabbi Nechunya ben Akane. How come Rabbi Nechunya ben Akane says that if a fellow is chayiv kares, he's potter from paying for financial damages that he incurred while doing the thing that he's chayiv kares for? Amar Abaye says, Abaye nemer oson bidei adam. It says oson by when you cause damage from a person. Well, really, when you're chayiv misa by a person, right? When you're chayiv misa bidei adam, right? The pasuk says, right? The first pasuk on the page. I'm going to read the pasuk. V'chiyinatzu anoshim, that if you have 2 fellows and they're fighting, Reuven and Shimon are fighting. V'nogfa isha hara, and they ended up hitting a pregnant woman. V'yatzu yaladea, and she miscarried and the children died. V'lo ason, but she doesn't die. The woman remains alive. Onoshi onish, so they have to pay for the value of the miscarriage. Kasher yoshus olav bala isha v'nosim b'flilim. But the implication being that if not the implication, I think that the pasuk even then continues, right? But if she does die, well then the fellow's chayiv misa, right? I mean, depending, it's machlokas of Shimon and Chacham, if it's niskam la'argezev or argezev seder. But the point is that if you kill somebody, so then you're chayiv misa. And we say Davka says v'lo, right? V'lo yeh asun onish onish, right? It says that if she doesn't die, so then you have to pay for the financial damages, right? For the value of the fetuses. But if she does die, then you wouldn't have to pay for the value of these children who were miscarried. So the implication being that if they're not chayiv misa bidei adam, right? If they're not chayiv, I believe we would strangle you to death, or for killing somebody you get chenek. I think, I can't remember. If you strangle somebody, if you kill somebody, do we strangle you to death or do we plop your head off with a sword? It's one of those two. Hereg, chenek. Maybe we plop your head off with a sword. I can't remember. Now, maybe we plop off the head with the sword. Can't remember. So when it comes to capital punishment, so we said if she doesn't die and therefore they are not chayiv for capital punishment, right? We don't kill them by either plopping off their head with a sword or strangulation. I'm not sure. So as long as we don't kill the fellow, so then he has to pay the value of the fetuses. But if he kills the woman, so then he doesn't have to pay for the value of the fetuses, i.e., since we're killing him, he doesn't have to pay the financial value. Also bidei shamayim. It also says oson by bidei shamayim. It says by Binyamin, when Yaakov Avinu sends his children to go to Mitzrayim to buy food from Yosef HaTzadik. So it says that Yaakov Avinu didn't want to send Binyamin. It says I'm supposed to know this. It's my bar mitzvah parsha. Right, that maybe an oson will happen on the way, and meaning that maybe he will get sick or something on the way, which is something that comes from God. So it says oson in the context of these people who are fighting, and it says oson in the context of Binyamin going to Egypt. So ma'oson or omer b'dei adam potem natashlumin, just like oson that said when a fellow is chayiv misa, right, that if he kills his friend and then we kill him, so he's potter for paying for the fetuses. Af oson or omer b'dei shamayim potem natashlumin. So also when it comes to oson b'dei shamayim, you'd be potter from tashlumin, right? By Binyamin, if something were to happen to him, which is b'dei shamayim, so we learn from there that any misa that's b'dei shamayim, such as karis, you'd also be potter from tashlumin. Maskeflor of Adam bar Ahava. Rav Adam bar Ahava asks Akasha to Abaye, Mimai dechi kom mizar lehu Yaakov levnei atzinim upachim tibidei shamayim nenu. How do we know that when Yaakov Avinu says to his children, I'm concerned that maybe an oson will happen to Binyamin, how do we know that Yaakov Avinu is concerned about tzinu mufachim, if it gets too cold or too hot, that maybe things that are outside of his control, that maybe God will cause Binyamin to die, which is bidei shamayim. Dilma al ayiv ganove di bidei udam ninu. Maybe what Yaakov Avinu was concerned about is maybe on the way he'll get eaten by a lion or killed by thieves and bandits and murderers. So, and that's bidei adam. So how do I know that the osun by Binyamin is dafka bidei shamayim? It could dafka be bidei adam. That Yaakov Avinu was saying that he was concerned that some nudniks are going to kill Binyamin. Or to Yaakov aho azar alo azar. Yaakov ako mile azar. So the Gemara says Yaakov was concerned about everything. What, you think he was only concerned about bandits and thieves and murderers? Sure, he was concerned about that, but he was also concerned about Binyamin being too cold or too hot, getting a fever, maybe getting a contagious virus or something like that. So anything can be Yodim, bidei shamayim. It says that's what Yaakov Avinu was concerned about. And it says also over there, just like it says by a situation where somebody b'chayv misa bidei shamayim, bidei odom, just like by misa bidei odom, right? Capital punishment. If you chayv misa and mammon, then you potter from the mammon, so from paying financial damages. So also when it comes to something bidei shamayim, such as karis, you'd be potter from paying for the financial damages, and therefore, if a fellow is onus mufata with a nida, so then he'd be potter from having to pay the fine. According to Ibn Chunya ben Akano, as explained by Abai, v'sinim pachim bidei shamayim ninu. 1 second. In fact, the Gemara, we just said that Yaakov Avinu was concerned that maybe Binyamin would be too cold or too hot or something like that, and that would be bidei shamayim. And then it says also, and we say basically that's how we learn out that even misa bidei shamayim you'd be potter from tashlumin. But who says that tzinim pachim is really right? Like too cold, too hot is actually considered from God. V'atani, we learn in the Brisa, kol bidei shamayim, everything is in the hands of God. Chutz mitzinim pachim, with the exception of when it's too cold or too hot. Shenemar, as the pasuk says in Mishlei, tzinim pachim baderech ikesh, that tzinim pachim, right, the sort of unfavorable situations that come about, when it's too cold or too hot, is right, baderech ikesh. It's because the fellow's being a nudnik. Shomenashe yichak meim, and anybody who cares for his life will stay away from, I guess, anything nudniki or any people who are nudniki and things like that. And therefore, we see that Ataka is in a fellow's control. It's bidei odom that if a fellow wants to stay away from tzinim pachim, so you shouldn't be a nudnik. Visu, and more so, ari v'ganova bidei odom nenu, are lions and thieves something that comes from? Is that something from man? Lions and thieves. V'omer Rav Yosef says Rav Yosef v'chintani Reb Chia. Reb Chia also taught Miyom Shechor Beis Hamikdash, that from the time that the temple was destroyed, Afalpisha Batlu Sanhedrin, even though there's no longer a Sanhedrin, a great court, Abamisos Lo Batlu, nonetheless there's still capital punishment, right? Even though we don't have Sanhedrin, even I imagine it's talking about a Sanhedrin Kitana, right? Unless it's talking about Sanhedrin Gedola, that meaning you have to have a Sanhedrin Gedola in order to be able to do capital punishment. I'm not sure. But it's saying, even though there's no Sanhedrin, we still have capital punishment. Av misos lo batlu. I'm sorry, where am I? Avisha badlu Sanhedrin, av misos lo batlu, lo batlu, abatlu. What do you mean we still have capital punishment? No way, no how. We don't have capital punishment. We don't stone people in that way. Ella din arba misos lo batlu. No, it means the sort of the concept, how do I say this? Ich weiß nicht. Meaning, even though we don't kill a fellow, Bezdin doesn't do it. We don't carry out the executions. But let's go weiter for a second. Mishin is chayiv skila. Let's say you have a fellow who generally would be chayiv stoning, or nofil min agag, so maybe he'll fall off a roof, or chayiv derasto, or maybe he'll get trampled upon by a wild animal. Mishin is chayiv sreifa. A fellow is chayiv to be burnt, or nofil b'taleka, maybe he'll fall in a fire, or nochosh machisho, or maybe a serpent will bite him, and its venom will burn him from the insides. Or maybe somebody who deserves to have his head plopped off with a sword, or nimsa the malchus, maybe he'll be handed over to the sinister government who will plop off his head with a sword. Or listin by an olav, maybe bandits will find him and plop off his head with a sword. If you have a fellow who is chayiv strangulation, or tovei abanar, maybe he'll drown, or maybe bestrunki, or maybe he'll get strunki, which is a really bad disease where you can't breathe. So, what do we see? So we see here that davka, right, we don't have misabide, we don't have the capital punishment anymore, but if a fellow deserves capital punishment, so he'll get eaten by a lion or something, so we see that being eaten by a lion, or thieves coming and killing you, these are things that are sent from God for people who really should be should be receiving capital punishment, but that we can't execute them since we don't have the Sanhedrin anymore. So, what have we just showed? We've just indicated that actually Tzinim Pachim could become Bidei Adam from being a Nudnik, and Chaya, Aryeh, a lion, and bandits, they can they're dafka bidei shamayim. So ela ipoch. So rather says the Gemara, switch it around. Ari v'ganova bidei shamayim, tzinu mufachim bidei adam. That dafka, the lion and the thieves, those come from God, but tzinu mufachim bidei adam. But when it's too cold or too hot, that taka comes from man when a fellow is a big nudnik. Rav Omer says, Rav, says Rav, actually the reason for Ibn Chunya ben Akona comes from here, right? So Abai learned it out from Gzeira Shaveh. It says also by Bidei Adam, and it says also by Bidei Shamayim, just like by Bidei Adam, Komle Bidei Rab Midei, and if you chayiv misa, you're part from Tashlumin. So also by, when it's Bidei Shamayim, also if you chayiv Karis or something, right, if you chayiv Karis, chayiv misa Bidei Shamayim, so then, you'd be parted from paying money. Rav Amar says, that the reason for the rationale for Ibn ben Akona to say that if you chayiv kares, you're parted from paying money, it comes from here. That if the people look the other way, when a fellow gives from his children to this fire offering avodah zarah, right, meaning what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to tell on him, and he gets killed from Bezdin. I think Skila. So then, but if you look the other way and don't tell on him, you don't report him. V'samti ani pon as ponai bo ishahu v'mishpachto v'karti v'chrati also. That if you don't report him and have him receive the death penalty, bidei Adam, so the Eibishter says that he'll do it bidei Shamayim. that it'll kill the fellow anyways. V'chrati also, right? That they're going to give him kares. Amar Torah, kares shali k'misa shalachim. That we're comparing the kares that will come from God to the capital punishment exacted by the human courts. Ma misa shalachim partu min hatashlumin, av kares shali partu min hatashlumin. So just like your capital punishment, if a fellow is chayiv for capital punishment, so he's partu from tashlumin. So also when it comes to kares, also if a fellow is chayiv kares, he's partu from tashlumin. He wouldn't have to pay any financial obligations that accrued while doing this activity that he's chayiv kares for. So now, frag the Gemara, ma'ika bein Rav Abaye. Oh, what's the difference between Rav and Abaye? Abaye learns out Rabbi Nechuni ben Akona's rationale from Gzeir Shavev Oson, and Rav learns it out from this pasuk by Avodah Zarah that compares Misa Bidei Adam to Kares. So Ika Benayu, the nafkamina is Zor Sha'achal Trume. Oh, if you have a non-Kohen who eats Trume, who could tell me what the punishment for eating Trume is? A non-Kohen eating Trume? Misa b'dei shamayim, not kares. Misa b'dei shamayim. Kares is a little bit worse. So what does Rashi say? Hu b'misa b'dei shamayim v'lo b'kares. Kares hu v'zaru ne'enoshin. That by kares he and his children get punished. Whereas I guess misa b'dei shamayim is just him. Interesting distinction. So in a situation where you chayv misa b'dei shamayim, such as a non-Kohen who eats Truma. The Abaye Potter. So according to Abaye, he learns it out from Oson. Right? That just like Oson Bidei Adam, you're Potter from Tashlumin, so also Oson Bidei Shamayim, you're Potter from Tashlumin, and that could be anything Bidei Shamayim, whether it's Kares, whether it's Misa Bidei Shamayim, you can be Potter from Tashlumin. Well, the Rav Chayiv, whereas Rav says that no, it comes from this pasuk by Avodah Zarah. Right? By Avodah Zarah, it'd be chayiv. Right? We're saying that God will give him kares. So dafka by kares, you're part of him tashlumin. But misa b'dei shamayim, such as a non-kohen who eats truma, he'd be chayiv for tashlumin. Oh, will Abaye potter? Now, fact, Gemara, 1 second. Would Abaye really say that a fellow a non-kohen who eats truma is going to be potter from having to pay for the truma? Let's go weiter for a second. Meaning, Abaye says, look, we learn out from the Gzeir Shava of Oson, anything that's bidei shamayim would be part from payment, and that includes, whether it's kares, whether it's misa bidei shamayim. So we say that's all fine and good, and we want to say that applies to a non-kohen who eats truma, because the punishment is misa bidei shamayim. But in practice, how would it be part from paying? The Amr of Chizda, doesn't Rav Chizda say, Modu Reb Nechuni ben Akone, the Reb Nechuni ben Akone nonetheless admits, Begonev chelbo shel chavero, that if Reuven steals Shimon's chelev of course is forbidden fats that you're not allowed to eat, and if you eat those fats from an animal, you chayiv kares. So even though Reb Nechuni ben Akone says that a fellow who's chayiv kares is potter from payment, nonetheless, Begonev chelbo shel chavero, if Reuven steals Shimon's chelev ve'achalo, and then he ate it, shehu chayav, he's going to be chayav to pay for the chelev. So even though by eating the chelev is chayav kares, so I would think that he shouldn't have to pay for having stolen, right? Shimon having stolen Reuven's chelev, but nonetheless, says Rav Chizda that he'd be chayav. Shimon would be chayav for stealing Reuven's chelev. Shekvarnis chayav bigneva kodem sheba lidei iser chelev. You hear that? Because he was already liable to pay for the chelev before he was chayiv kares for eating chelev. Let's go weiter for a second. Alma de me'idna de agboye kanye, that the second that Reuven picked up, I can't remember who's Reuven, who's Shimon, but from the second that Reuven picked up Shimon's chelev, I assume that was the example we gave, right? Reuven stole Shimon's chelev and he ate it, right? If not, then that's what it is now. So from the second that Reuven picked up Shimon's chelev, he acquired it, and he owns it, and at that point he stole it, and at that point he's liable to pay back Shimon for stealing his chelev. And only at the next stage of the activity, when he eats it, at that point is he chayiv karis. Therefore, the geneva, the liability to pay back Shimon for what he stole, was before he was liable for kares for having eaten cheleb. And therefore, even though, yes, now he's chayiv kares, he's still going to be chayiv nonetheless for stealing Shimon's cheleb, and he's going to have to pay back Shimon because he stole it before he ate it. And by the time that he ate it and he was chayiv kares, he was already chayiv for stealing, and he's going to have to pay back the value of the chelev, even though he's chayiv kares for having eaten it. Mischayiv b'nafshu lo hava ada achile. That even though from the time that he picked up the chelev, he acquired it and he stole it, and he's chayiv to pay it back, to pay back Shimon, he's only going to be chayiv for kares for eating chelev when he then later eats it. So therefore he's chayiv for paying for the chelev. And hochanami, so let's say also in our case, when a non-kohen eats trumeh, be'idno de agboye kanye, at the time that he picks up the trumeh, he owns it, he's kone it, and then he's chayiv to pay back the kohen for what he stole. Mischayiv b'nafshe lo have ad ochile, and he's only going to be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim later when he eats it. And therefore, while in theory I can understand why how Abaye could say that somebody who eats trumeh, a zar that eats, a non-kohen who eats trumeh, and is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim should be potter from tashlumin, but in practice, I don't understand how it would be potter, because in order for a non-kohen to eat trumah, you'd have to pick it up first. From the time that he picks it up, he's going to be chayiv to pay for it. He's chayiv for stealing, and he has to pay back Shimon. The misa b'dei shamayim only comes later, and that's not going to make him exempt from the liability for having stolen the trumah earlier. So, and for the Gemara, hocho b'mayoskinon shetochav lo chaveru l'soch piv. Well, it's talking about where his friend shoved the trumah into his mouth. That's what happened. Reuven didn't pick up Shimon's trumah and eat it. Reuven's friend shoved trumah into his mouth and then he ate it. So at the time that he ate the trumah, he was chayiv misa b'dei shamayim, because he's not a kohen and he ate trumah. He's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim, and it was also at that time that he got whatever benefit he got from eating it. He never picked it up. He never acquired it beforehand. And at that time that he ate it, and at the time that he was chayiv misa b'dei shamayim, he also got certain benefit from it, and he would be potter for paying back that benefit. Because at the time that he's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim, he's going to be potter from whatever financial, whatever financial benefit he got at the same time. He doesn't need to pay back Shimon for that. But in fact, the Gemara sof at the end of the day came in the law say Kanye, but I'll still argue that once he chewed it, he then took ownership of it, but only then, a few seconds later when he swallows it, is he then chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. So here as well, he acquired it before he was actually chayiv misa b'dei shamayim, and therefore still, I would say, according to Abaye, he should be chayiv to pay for the the trumah, since he acquired it when he chewed it before having swallowed it. No, it's more than that. Reuven's friend didn't just put it in his mouth; he shoved it down his throat. And so how far did he shove it down the throat? Well, if he could have hacked it up, nehader. Well, then he should have hacked it up. And since he didn't hack it up, it's considered like he kind of took ownership before he then swallowed it. And therefore, he should be chayiv to pay for the trumah. And if he was unable to hack it up, amai chayiv. Well, then why should he be chayiv? It's an onus. He shouldn't be chayiv at all. So let's see. Talking about he could have hacked it up if he needed to, but even if he did hack it up, it would, the trumah would already be like disgusting, I don't know, would you want to eat truma that somebody hacked up? That was forced down somebody's throat and you hacked it up? Stamanat, right? No, it's not nice. So that's what we're talking about. That Ruvain is not a kohen, and he ate Shimon's truma, but he didn't just eat it. His friend came, shoved the truma into his mouth so far that it wasn't even shaykh to hack it up. And therefore, when he swallows it, he's chayiv for, I mean, he could have technically hacked it up, but he could have hacked it up, l'maisa. He could have hacked it up, but he didn't. And therefore he's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim for eating the truma. He could have hacked it up and he didn't. So he's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim for eating the truma. And he's also chayiv, but he's potter for whatever benefit he got from eating that truma, whatever financial value to the benefit that he got for eating the truma at the time that he ate it. So he's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim for eating the truma. He's going to be potter, according to Abaye, for whatever benefit he got at that time. And he's not going to be chayiv for stealing it because he didn't really steal it since, somebody shoved it so far down his throat that it was already ruined. Interesting ukimta. Rav Papa almost says, Rav Papa has a much easier answer. Who gave this answer? The Gemara, I guess. Papa gives a more straightforward answer. He says, we're not talking about food of truma, we're talking about drinks of truma. And therefore his friend puts the drink in his mouth. By the time the drink goes in his mouth, it's already, nobody else is going to drink it. It's already disgusting. So it's not considered like he stole it, right? His friend put it in his mouth, it got ruined. So it was already done. But nobody said he needed to swallow it. So when he swallows it, he's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim for drinking this truma. And he's potter but he's going to be potter from whatever financial value there is to the truma. Fine. To the benefit that he got for eating the truma. Fine. Rav Ashi says it's not talking about where he stole truma, it's talking about where he ate his own truma, right? Maybe it was gifted to him or whatever it is, but he had truma somehow, and he ate it, so he wasn't stealing it, it was his truma, but he's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim because he's not a kohen and he ate truma, and he's going to be potter those according to Abai for whatever, benefit he got for having eaten the truma, because kam levi d'Rab Mini. Friends, that was Daf Lamed of Masechta Ksubis. So we saw that both according to Shimon HaTimni and according to Reb Shimon ben Manasseh, a fellow by onus umefata, a fellow would be chayiv to pay the fine for a nida, because a nida checks off both boxes of somebody that you can marry and somebody you could stay married to the exclusion of Reb Nechunya ben Akona, who says that when it comes to something you chayiv karis for, such as a fellow who sleeps with a nida, you'd be potter for any payments. We said, how do we know? How does Reb Nechunya ben Akana learn this? Abai said he learns it out from Gzeira Shaveh of Osun. Osun, it says Osun by Misa b'dei Adam and by Misa b'dei Shamayim, whether it's Karis, whether it's Misa b'dei Shamayim, and therefore just like when you killed by capital punishment, so then you are potter from payment. So the same thing would apply to Misa b'dei Shamayim. Rava learns it out from a pasuk by Avodah Zarah, where it says that the fellow compares the fellow being chayiv kares for avodah zarah and capital punishment. Just like capital punishment, we say kam levi d'Rab Mine, that we give him the more stringent punishment, but he'd be off the hook. Right, misa would be off the hook for money. So the same thing applies to kares, but the nafkamina being truma. If a non-kohen eats truma, it's misa b'dei shamayim. We then said, okay, so according to Abaye, it's right, he'd be potter by case of misa b'dei shamayim. So a non-kohen who eats truma would be so he'd be chayiv misa b'dei shemayim for eating truma, but he'd be potter from payment. The question was, how would he be potter from payment? Because theoretically, when he picks up the truma, he's already chayiv for gneva, and he'd have to pay that back before, and that came before he actually ate the truma. So even though he's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim, he should still be chayiv for stealing. So we gave three answers. One answer is that if somebody else shoved it in his mouth so far down his throat that the fellow basically ruined it, and therefore he's not chayiv for stealing, but he would be chayiv for, theoretically would be chayiv for any benefit that he got while swallowing it when he's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim for having swallowed truma as a non-kohen. But Rabbi would say that he's potter, since we'd say kam levi d'Rab Mine. Another option is that it wasn't food, it was drink, and then for the second it gets into his mouth, it gets ruined. And he was saying that he'd be potter from whatever financial value there is to the benefit that he got when he swallowed the truma. And Rav Ashi says it's talking about where he didn't steal truma, but he ate his own truma, but at the same time, don't know if I explained this well earlier. At the same time, he sort of tore somebody else's garment. So Kilu, at the time that he's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim for eating truma, he's going to be potter for any other financial liabilities that he incurs at that time. So while he was eating his own truma, he tore somebody else's garment or something. And we're saying, Kam leb'dirab minei, according to Abaye, and since he's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim for eating truma as an ankoyin, he'd be potter for having tore some other garment, somebody's garment. Friends, that was the Daf Lamed of Masechta Ksubis. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.